Hi Dennis Bulldogs, it's Mrs. Johnson, your school counselor, and today we are going to continue to talk about paradigms, and this will actually be our last video on paradigms or perceptions, and then we will move on to principles. So like I've mentioned, we're continuing to work in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and I have the workbook and the book. I haven't been able to find a cheap version of the books, but I'm still going to try and continue to look, so maybe I'll get lucky. So we've talked about the paradigm of self, the paradigm of others, and then today we're going to talk about the paradigms of life. So, as I've mentioned, sometimes I'm going to read out of these, and I think the book will do a better job than I will of explaining what a paradigm of life is, and then we'll talk about different centers that you can have that your life revolves around. So, besides having paradigms about yourself and others, you have paradigms about the world in general. Whatever is important to you will become your paradigm, your glasses, or your life center. For teens, popular life centers include friends, stuff like material items, boyfriends and girlfriends, school, parents, sports or hobbies, heroes, enemies, self, and work. Each of these life centers has its good points, but they are always incomplete in one way or another. So, you heard about the different centers, and some of the most popular ones that they talk about in the book are friend-centered, stuff-centered. So, like, focusing everything around your friends, focusing everything around material items or obtaining things, which I know can seem very important whenever you're in middle school and high school. And once you move along, I know you probably have heard this a ton, once you move along and you become an adult, you'll realize that like the label on your clothing or things like that doesn't really matter. And I don't know if you are feeling this way at all, and you may not be, but being, in self-isolation or quarantine or however you want to call it, and having to stay home has really made me realize, how little of material items I need as far as like clothing, and makes me question like why I wear things that I do or why I do things I do whenever it's just myself and my husband at home. So if you're feeling that way, take that time to reflect and make sure that you're doing things that you want to do and not just because you feel pressure from other people at school or from social media like Instagram, Pinterest, that kind of stuff, Facebook, just celebrities in general, your friends. Make sure you're, staying true to yourself. So you can also be boyfriend and girlfriend centered. So if you're allowed to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, or you just have crushes in general, that can become part of your focus completely. School centered. So maybe you're all about school, wanting to get good grades. It's, of course, important for your education to be a priority right now, and I wish that when I was your age, I would have put it even more of a priority, especially going into high school. I probably put more attention to other categories, and it's important to be aware and to want to do well, but you also don't want that to be your entire focus. And then another one that they talk about in here is parent-centered. So of course you want your parents to be a big part of your life. But the point is as the book said, there are good points about each category, but you want to balance. So you want to, sometimes people I'm really into reading. And honestly, sometimes I might put reading above other categories, which isn't good, like sleep. Sometimes I read a little bit too long at night when I really should just be going to bed for my health and getting sleep. So being aware of that, I can make changes now. So you need to consider these centers. Some of the other ones I'm just going to mention, it says other possible ones are sports and hobbies. So I know that's a big one for a lot of people. Or maybe like music, if you're into band or choir or just singing or music in general. Hero-centered means like a famous movie star, rock star, athlete, politician. Like if you're really into one of those, making sure that you're having a balance with that. work-centered, which I know is probably not something you're dealing with right now, but can definitely be something that happens later in life once you get a job. Self-centered, so being completely obsessed and thinking the world revolves around us and our problems is definitely a big obstacle if that's something that you are dealing with. So there are several different centers that you can focus on, or basically like ways that you think are important in your life. So one thing it talks about that I think is good, if you're starting to wonder what is your center in life, and maybe you know right away, maybe it's obvious to you, but it says you can usually tell what your paradigm or perception is by asking yourself these questions. And this is what I'll probably put below in the information so that you can start thinking about this, is what is the driving force of my life? What do I spend my time thinking about? Who or what is my obsession? Whatever is most important to you will become your paradigm, or as they like to call it, your life center. So I think it's important for us to consider this. Maybe you feel like you do have things balanced, and that's awesome. And maybe you can explain how that's balanced or write it out. Hopefully, if you're participating in these videos and some of these like challenges or homework, that you're able to write some of these things down or talk it out with someone. So my homework for you, which I'll write down below, is just to consider what is your center of your life. Like, what is your perception of life? What do you feel like is the most important? And then on Monday, we will talk about principles, and that's more like your values. And so that will go right along with the paradigm of life. So I hope that you are able to take an opportunity to explore some of the expanded learning opportunities. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I also made a video on 21st century scholars information on Wednesday. So if you are in 7th or 8th grade, that would be a really good one for you to watch with a parent or guardian. And if you have any questions, like I said, just message me on Canvas, or that's probably the easiest way for you guys to get a hold of me. And I hope you guys are doing well and keeping busy. And I'm sending you all of my love. I hope to see you soon, and I hope you take care. See you later.